those things. Again, shoot the breeze topic number 4. Animals are primitive, but they work together. How come we don't do this? Let's check out this video and then have a conversation on it. Okay, pretty self-explanatory. Brother Bakari in the chat said those are otters, but they are family with the ferret. Brother Bakari, the prompt says animals are primitive, but they work together. How come we don't do this? What say you to
that? Those wild animals see a need to survive. I did 2 shows on the wolf super pack. And the wolf super pack is, you know how wolf packs, they fight one another, right? But they were in an area, Russia and Alaska. They were in an area, and they say, and they also, matter of fact, they had one here, but the one over there was bigger. Was like over here in Yellowstone, 4 packs stopped fighting and came together because prey was getting scarce. In that way, they could survive, right? Or when it was in Russia and Alaska, I think it ended up, I think they said it was like 150 wolves together. They saw a need to survive. That's their survival instinct. We are animals. I like to say humans. We are animals, but we have truly lost the survival instinct in coming together. And we are actually pack animals. That's why we have leaders. That's why we do certain things. We're actually pack animals. But for us as Black people, we tend to get away from the pack because we think it's better. We think it would be easier for us to survive if I'm on my own. We have bought into a system of lies by the people who has been in charge, saying, you know, be independent, do it yourself, when they actually work as a pack. We have lost our pack mentality. I get it, Mike.
I appreciate that, Brother Bakari. Let's go to Danger Daring.
Yeah, I would like to say that I just think it's most based on people having their self-interest. And that's where individualism comes from. Like, we all have our own motives that like influence what we want to do. And I think that's how we get disarray. From a pack or from a community or even working together. And I would say Black people, I feel like we're the most selfish with that. And even in this like situation like that could be beneficial for a group, we still have our self-interest, like, oh, well, since he's not Nigerian, I'm not gonna help, or since she's not like you said, South African, I'm not. It's those personal self-interests and motives that definitely deter us from even working together. But then also too, like the main reason that we all on here is because the Pan-Africanism. So that's my input on that. It is.
I appreciate that. Sister Roy in the chat says, you're not no animal. Not at all, man. Let's go to Real Black Gentleman. Real Black Gentleman, what say you about this? How come we don't do this according to the problem?
I mean, it's the I mean, because we, these guys are using their teeth, you know what I'm saying? The rawness of our essence to like actually go out and assist each other. We use tools, and instead of like our tools have become electronic nowadays. We don't go out and go to the house and shake hands anymore. We say what's up over our, our DMs. This is part of, yeah, like Lero said there, we think that the pack is holding us back. And the idea of rugged individualism, and you have to do for self, and the bootstraps, and the idea that I'm you're in you as a person. I'm right here, and there's no other thing for me to be concerned about but the things that are whatever who's ever like predetermined things. I have to make sure I have my ring. I have to make sure I follow my laws. I have to make sure I'm not breaking, I have to make sure that, I those things basically. You have to make sure that you know what I'm saying? We don't go to jail as a group. We go to jail as individuals. We get punished as individuals. We do, the idea you succeed as an individual, these are all lies in a lot of ways. We don't really succeed as an individual. There is a lot of collective things, the idea that, if Black people, want help from, the government, it's a handout in too many cases. Whereas, historically, white people were given all kinds of land, all the land handouts because they work together. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we didn't get it being here in America. We never had the opportunity. And even in all the colonies where I'm saying people were in bondage, we weren't able to like work in packs because that's a gang. You know what I'm saying? Well, of course, but I mean, anytime Black people get together, it's insurrection. If it, you know what I'm saying? Like that's part of, and it's like generational. I mean, I would love to feel like I was, maybe I'm a little bit more eccentric. When people talk about the Matrix and the whole, like the agents, the way that their minds were like so like tight, that they would finish each other's sentences because everyone's knowing what's going on at the same time. And there's individual parts of that same, unit just tight like wolves, like the two twins, like we are upset. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't have, and part of that is if you're close enough, I mean, with, electricity and instinct, the way, what I'm saying, Black people could move like a school of fish and just kind of just like go along. And then, as what I'm saying, if one of us were to succumb, the greater group would continuously move in a way to defend itself. It's the hive mind. But the problem is the hive mind can't be a dumb hive mind. It has to be an adaptive hive mind. It has to be on point. If I see something and I say something, everyone gets it, or there's a flaw. It can't be I see something and like the people are trying to come to an understanding of what. No, I saw it. It was what it was objectively. My eyes and my brains. The electricity was real. I'm transmitting the info. You see, what I'm trying to get at, I hope. But it's like we've yet to, again, this is why we don't have the sense of like using each other's warmth just to be warm and huddle with each other. But I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that like I won't say that like technology is bad. But I mean, imagine the internet without slavery. I mean, well, geez, you know what I'm saying? It's like little things like that. It's like, what I'm saying? It's like it's impossible because you can't disentangle it because what what drove various peoples to even Black people to even be in situations where even if they were surrounding the white people who study is you can really go through the minutia and really figure out like these things. I mean. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. The reason why we if I'm going to assume that's Black people, is because we were isolated. We were picked off one by one. We were shackled in the ships one by one.
Sure was.
That's why I'm a pass.
No, before you do that, I just want to say everything he said. I agree with.
That's what's up. I appreciate that cosign, sis.
Very welcome too.
Let's welcome and observing immigrants this week. How are you observing? Also known as Marcus Garvey is the way. I don't know why you have two different names.
Hold up, real gentleman. Were you just flirting just now? What's going on?
Observing immigrants. How are you this week?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good.
What say you to this? Animals are primitive, but they work together. How come we don't do this?
Well, I think the animals are doing it basically for survival. I mean, when animals help each other, and not all animals help each other. We know that not all species help one another, but in this case, yes, they do it for survival. We no longer do stuff for survival, I think, because we've become so individualistic in our thoughts. Because if you really think about it, if you hear the news and the news says today that 200 people in Africa died, that doesn't stop our day. Yeah, that doesn't stop our even if five people died, down the road from us, if they're not related to you, if you don't know them, it doesn't stop your day, it doesn't phase you. So we've become a species, be it that, those things are far removed from us. So we're not gonna go and try to find these people and try to help their families and stuff like that. That's why you have so much homeless, because we don't care. Yeah. And I think we've become a species as humans, especially here in the West, of people who really don't give a fuck about other people. Let's be real. Yeah. You can give $5 to St. Jews or whatever, but at the end of the day, we don't care about anyone else, in wider society. And that's my opinion. That's it.
Yeah, sometimes shoot the breeze creates establishes connections, man, and so we might be establishing a connection here. With that said, Brother Bakari, what say you?
Well, I've spoke on this, but like I said, man, we got away from the pack. I heard what the one guy say. He said they even put us on the ships by themselves. They had a shackle together. We got away because we trying to live like other people. The biggest thing is, man, we are confused. We trying to be other people, and we think those other people
Exactly.
is individuals. But if you look at it right, and I don't even want to mention this clown, but I'm gonna say his name. But if you look at it right, you look at Kanye, and everybody screamed the Jews canceled him. The Jews canceled him. Okay, Jews. White folks canceled him. They did that together. The people that
Thank you.
When Adidas canceled him, Adidas is owned by Nazis. They're not owned by Jews. The guy that owned the SoFi Stadium in LA that canceled his concert, those were Germans. Those people, everybody, see, we have been beat down so bad. Oppressed, suppressed, depressed, compressed, full co-press, any kind of pressure you can think of. So we get to a point where we think the best way out of this pressure is if I just be worried about myself, me and my family, then everything will be okay. Even though we see us losing that way, we still think it's better. It's better to lose that way than it is to lose with the group. Because when you get around, it was this old guy. He was from Mississippi, went to New York, retired, came back to Mississippi. He said he hated black people and flies. He hated black people more than he hated flies. Both of them get on your nerves, but black people be begging, but he used the N word, right? So we think if we're in that group, I got to take care of everybody. They gonna ask me for my stuff. We are trying to become hoarders, like the people who never knew how to share anything. Right? They never shared nothing. They sharing now. Not really sharing. They just make sure they maintain their power. But we've been caught up in a system and we just confused completely. And I still rock with shit. We mammals. And when I say we're animals, I'm not saying that to put black people down. I'm not saying that like we're beneath anybody else. I'm just saying that we are actually mammals, right? We're one, and we are pack animals. And if once we want to get back to the pack, we'll we will be able to make strides and build more and do more for the community.
Let's hear from Oni.
Yeah, so what I would say is, well, I mean, here's the thing. I want to say this, that first off, I think humans do
help you over the fence. I mean, like in a literal sense. Like if you are physically struggling to go over a fence, a human would help you go over a fence. I think if we're being honest, one of the reasons why you might not be socially or metaphorically helped over the fence is a lot of times you're not in a position to help other people over a fence. You know what I mean? Or like we think somebody's in the position, kind of like actually, Brother McCarr just brought up Kanye West. Like you might say to yourself, hey, why doesn't Kanye West help one of us? Or like he reached over the fence, why doesn't he help one of us? But you kind of see that this motherfucker he's not really over the fence. He just looked that way. But as soon as he, spoke out of turn or what have you, if you want to say that, people showed, hey, look, this motherfucker's right down there with you. Well, not necessarily with you, but he's not in a position to be like, okay, well, now that you have $1 billion, now that I have $1 billion, here's $1 billion for you, because it was all tied up with the other people, and he never really had it. So, the question, I feel like one of the things with us as a people is that, like I said, we go back to reality type of thing, where we have to look at it and say, well, are we really the otter on the top of the fence? Or is it that these white folk are on the top of the fence? And where a lot of people are just like, hey, white man, can you pull me up? And white man's like, no. Or he's like, sure, I'll pull up you idiots. I mean, I'll pull up the dumbest ones. I'll pull up the people who will rub my feet. I'll pull up the Jay-Z's. I'll pull up the Oprahs. I'll pull up those folk. But as far as like the people that we want to be pulled up, no, he's not gonna, oh, here, Malcolm X, come up here. You know what I'm saying? He's not doing that, Oh, hey, Khalid Muhammad, I see you struggling to get up here. Come up here. No, he's not. White man's not gonna do that. Right. And then, the question is, well, why doesn't, like you say, well, what about if, if she pulls up Kanye West, why don't Kanye West pull up Khalid Muhammad? Because one, if, like, first off, he pulls up Candace. Why don't he pull up? Because Candace don't like Khalid Muhammad. One, but two, even if she did pull up Khalid Muhammad, white boy would know to just kick her off. And that's what they did with Kanye in real time. So what I would say, obviously, in a physical sense, yes, black folk would, like, people would do this. If you trying to get over a fence, people will probably help you over the fence. Like they hold the door for you or whatever, right? But two, on a metaphysical sense, we have to really ask ourselves: are we the otters on the top of the fence, or are we the otters on the bottom, wondering why the alligator or whatever isn't going to pull us up? You know what I mean? Or not even the alligator, but just the other species, the deer or whatever, is not going to pull up the otter. That's what I was saying.
Bana, what say you?
Yes, sir. I think that people, human beings help each other all the time. I think that if you look at a city like New York City, if people in New York City was doing their own thing, the society, the city itself would cease to function completely. It would come to a halt. And the fact that it doesn't is an indication of how people are working together collectively in that small space to cause that city to run. And the same thing in the Bahamas as well. Black people working together to ensure that the society is functioning. Now you have outliers in every society who want to create their own rules and live by their own rules. And we have a place for them. We put them in jail, or we just leave them alone and let them do their own thing. That's how it works. But I think that collectively, we as human beings, of course, we work together all the time. We do it, and even in dire situations. I've lived in several hurricanes. Some of them was devastating. Mash up the whole country, and I have seen young black men who people would look at as vagrants, and you shouldn't really check for these people. These people are criminals. I see them collectively come together to clean up a neighborhood. In dire times, bring ice to old people. And as far as Haiti, when I saw the earthquake hit Haiti, I see collectively people coming together, even Haitians in Haiti helping Haitians. I've seen people from on the outside helping the society. I think people collectively come together to work together all the time. Now, as far as coming together as and what we define as help, that might be something different. That might be something different. What do you define as help? These things is sometimes they are very subjective. When you're talking about economic help, people perceive that as different. Because if you have the ability to do something economically and I have the ability to do something economically, how how help is perceived may be different. But I believe that human beings, animals, we are animals. We come together collectively all the time to help one another in our daily activities. And I see it done all the time. So I don't necessarily agree with this particular prompt. Well, the wording of the prompt itself. I'll stop there.
All right, gas them up. What say you to this? Animals are primitive, but they work together. How come we don't do this?
Well, for me, I don't believe animals are primitive. I don't even believe in the categorization of so-called mankind. I think man was an invention by 15th century European humanists. I don't believe in that distinction anymore. I think when we look at the otters, they have an understanding that is biologically built within them that they're connected. Unfortunately, the connections that Africans had tribally were, you know, destroyed, ripped apart, and we have to find ways of building that again. And I think we have to understand that there's a difference between um, state forced communal or community interactions and intrinsic natural village or distribution society, um, decentralized, not centralized, statist um, communal interaction. So, for example, in the West, we're all a community. We're in a neighborhood. But Con Edison or something can come, or Georgia Power can come and cut off your lights, and that's just, oh well, pay your light bill. I wish you well, right? That's how a Westerner will approach it. But if you go into another country, they'll bribe the electricity man. Hey, listen, this lady hasn't been at work in 3 months. She just had a kid. Her husband passed away. Here's a few, dollars. Don't cut off her lights. Now we'll call that corruption, but I'll still look at it and say, yeah, that he should do his job. But at the same time, he has an understanding that if I do my job, I'm removing electricity from this woman who's a part of me. And I think that's one part of living in this Babylon that we kind of don't understand. And that's why, to me, Marxism and all these isms, socialism and all these things, they fail because they forget that blood is thicker than water. And so obviously it seems like these otters understand that intrinsically and biologically. So we Africans, even on the continent, um, there's a contention. So on one hand, you have your family, you have your family relationships, those blood ties, but then you still have to contend with the so-called nation state that, at, especially in America, is always trying to interfere and supersede those familial blood ties, right? So, for example, it is a fact if you have children in the United States of America, they don't belong to you; they belong to the state. At any moment, the state can come into your house and take your kids. That doesn't exist outside of America for the most part. Well, depending on the state, country, nation, state you live in. Um, so I don't know if I'm answering the question directly, but I'm just saying that we don't know how to. Oh, I would say the way Black people typically engage is family, decentralized, but we're in the belly of the beast, especially in this wilderness, in this jungle of North America. And we have to also not only have those family relationships, but we have to contend with the state. And the state is doing everything in their power to undermine those familial connections. And so I think that's why we don't do it. in addition to the trauma of Jim Crow, racism, and redlining, things like the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, things like the chopping off of hands in the Congo. So we're people who all we know is trauma, and all we have are negative interactions or negative what's the word negative connections. And when I mean negative, not in bad, but in the sense that it's only around, I think trauma, right? Kanye was talking about the trauma economy, but I think blackness for us in the United States is a trauma-based joinder. It's a trauma-based effort, blackness, right? So if you remove the trauma, there's no shared collectivity. It starts to become regionally local, right? Depending on your locality. So I don't want to go on too long, but again, like I said, I don't think I answered the question directly, but I hope that was enough. And if there's any clarification, ask me. But yeah, that's what I'll say.
No, I appreciate that. Lero in the chat says it's about objective. We've shown we can come together, but for what? Trey Hobby 262 says mobilization versus organization, as Kwame Ture said. He said that to Lero. He goes on and says a scientific revolt versus a sporadic revolt. He says people can come together for the sporadic revolt, but it doesn't stick. Afro-Native World says we came together to vote for Obama at Lero. Lero says, okay, it was tension for those who didn't. We got what it takes for real. We just succumbing to miseducation. With that said, let's hear from Azuli. Azuli, what are your thoughts on this video and prompt?
I think everybody said what should have been said. I mean, I just think a lot of time when we look at the situation, we think when we say animals are very individualistic, but I've seen in many stuff, animals are very not individualistic. I've seen some videos where a bear or like a different animal help a different animal from a different species. So I mean, I get what brother Mr. Untouchable said, but yeah, we do help each other. But I was wondering, it's like, are we doing enough? I'm talking about like individualistically. If your house catch on fire, I'm gonna come help. But as a group across ethnicities, across stuff like that. But everybody said what that's just it. I mean, that video is like a great example of unity and stuff like that. So, and animals are not like what we think, or because when they use the word, "Oh, you guys act like animals," but a lot of time animals act better than humans. Sometimes that's how I see it. But it was a great conversation.
All right. For time's sake, let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 5.